Are you someone who is into podcasts? Perhaps you want to have a really cool library where you can find some great podcasts to listen to on your commute to work. Or maybe you're looking to create one yourself. Well, let me tell you about Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast, all right? It's free. It has creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your PC. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you. Complete ease, hassle-free, so that way you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as many more outlets. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Okay, folks? Everything you need to make a podcast in one place. It's fantastic, all right? And if you want to get started right now, all you got to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, welcome to my very first little recording here for Just a Glimpse. And what better way to begin than with, the beginning. Let's start off with, who am I? Who am I? This is a very tough question to answer. I've been sitting here racking my brain on how I could best describe who I am to the listeners out there. And I don't know how to go about and do it, honestly. So I figure what I could do is I could list off just some key points about me to kind of set the tone. I'm not saying any of these things are super important and matter that much to me. They're just what makes me who I am. All right? I can start off with saying, well, I'm a woman. I am white. I grew up in the country. So I have like this, I was a farm girl, believe it or not, for a good part of my childhood. I could also list off that I'm part of the LGBTQIA community. I am married. Who am I? See, I feel like, yes, these are different things that will go ahead and kind of give you like a base synopsis of who I am, but it doesn't really tell you who I am. You know what I mean? So she's some gay white girl who grew up in the country. Who cares? I still can't figure out who I am. Because it's just, who really sits there and self-analyzes themselves? How many of you have sat there and they're like, okay, this, and this make me. Maybe you have. I've never really thought about who I am as a person too much, other than I just strive to be a good person. I try to be loyal and helpful to those that are important to me, those around me. Man, it's tough though. It's tough. Let's see. I guess maybe I can just kind of go over my childhood, I guess, when I get a good start. Like I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a small rural town in the middle of Wisconsin, and I jumped from house to house occasionally. My parents were divorced. All right, my parents got divorced when I was, I think, about 3 years old. All right, so it was jumping between my mom and my dad's place, and my dad was a farmer. My dad was a farmer, so I spent a lot of time when I went to go and visit him on weekends, helping out on the farm, milking the cows, or in the summertime I would have to go out and help him bale hay, things like that. And then as for my mom, she remarried, and my stepfather, he was a carpenter. He did roofing and siding and painting and things like that. So I also did a lot of construction growing up as a kid. Started helping him with he owned his own business. And I helped him with that, so I pretty much have been working since I was like 12 years old. Going up on roofs, helping him with tear-offs, re-shingling, re-siding, doing cleanup, and then when I became 16 and I could drive, then I helped him take the truck and trailer to the supply yard to go pick up lumber and materials and deliver it to the job sites. I've always been kind of a workaholic. I guess that is a word I could use to kind of describe who I am. I am a workaholic. I need to stay busy. That strong work ethic was something that was super instilled into me as a kid. Family worked really, really hard to get what we could to keep a roof overhead and keep the house heated in the wintertime. Food on the table, paycheck to paycheck lifestyle growing up. I didn't have a lot of really cool things as a kid. And growing up, I was very jealous, very, very jealous of my peers because I would go to school and I always dreaded going to school after summer break, because what's the number one thing they always ask you? As soon as you get into your classroom, right, and the teacher introduces who they are and whatnot, they always have you go around the class and introduce who you are, and then you have to tell them what you did over the summer. And I dreaded that so much because I never had anything cool to say, like all these kids would be coming in like, yeah, my family, we went on vacation, they went out of state or whatever, or, they got to see some real cool places, visit the Grand Canyon or what have you, or they'll talk about how they went to, like a water park or did some really cool, went to Six Flags and did some cool stuff, right? And then when it was always my turn, I didn't have anything cool and fun that I did over summer. My summer, I worked. All right? No lie, I worked. I, would go and help my stepdad, with his construction company. And I worked all summer, and then even in the wintertime, when he couldn't do his roofing and stuff, then he would do snow removal. So then in the wintertime, even when I went to school, I would have to get up really early in the morning if it snowed. And there was I grew up actually where the Tombstone Pizza factory was based. I would have to get up really early in the morning and go there and shovel all of the snow around the entire factory, making sure all the walkways were clear for the employees, making sure the loading docks were all clear so the truck drivers could come in, and I would do all that by hand. And then my stepdad, he would have the, like the snow blower, or he would use his plow truck, to do the heavy work when it comes to like the parking lot and stuff. And then, anything that he couldn't get his truck into was up to me to do by hand. And so I would do that, and then as soon as that got done, I would go to school and then go home, do my homework, and then if it snowed again that evening, there I was, right back at Tombstone Pizza, shoveling the walkways all over again. And sometimes I would have to repeat them 2-3 times in one night. So if it was snowing, as soon as one full walk around got done, I might have to immediately start over again because the snow had kept falling. And I would have to keep doing basically laps around the property, and it was hard work. All right, and I did that, growing up. So I've just always been, like work-minded, have that work ethic. Then eventually I, was getting ready to go to college, and so I started to get my first job. I filled out like a W-2 and all that good stuff. Where because my dad, he just paid me cash. So then here I am now, officially in the workforce. I got my W-2 and all that stuff filled out, and I'm working retail, doing a cashier job, and then, go to college, and I end up doing really, really well there, and I end up applying for a cashier job because I ended up leaving Wisconsin, and I went down to Illinois for college. Originally went there to become an interior designer, believe it or not, to help my stepdad because he was in construction, so he did a lot of work with fixing up people's houses and their barns and stuff with the outside, roofing, siding, painting, but he didn't really do too much on the interior side. So he really wanted to expand his business. So I was like, well, I'll go to school for interior design and I can learn how to basically do all the interior stuff, and we could really expand the business. But then that didn't pan out. 3 years in to my 4 years, he ended up sadly falling off of a roof, and he ended up cracking his spine and injuring and getting a really bad brain injury when he fell off the roof, and he hit a trailer and a sidewalk down below, and he ended up passing away, unfortunately. So, and then after that, I kind of closed up, lost interest in school. I was like, what's the point? You know, I was doing all this for my dad, you know, my stepdad, you know, and, you know, his business, which is now gone. Without him, there was nobody else to run it. You know, like, I was still in college, and he planned on passing it down to my younger brother, but my younger brother hadn't even finished high school yet, so he sure as heck didn't know how to run a business, you know, so the business just kind of went away. And I just lost interest in interior design after that. I was like, well, I don't want to do this no more. So then I kind of just jumped around, trying to figure out what I want to do. I did a little school with criminal justice. I thought about maybe becoming a police officer for a time. I lost interest in that, and I was just trying to find my way and what I wanted to do. And while doing that, I was still working in retail. You know, I had worked my way up from cashier to supervisor to assistant manager. You know, I was working my way up the chain doing all that stuff. And then it got to the point where things were getting tough, you know, school expenses and living expenses on my own. It was just tough, and changes had to be made. And I ended up dating a guy in college. Now, this goes into a whole nother story that I might, you know, put in to a different episode later on, because I know those of you that are part of the LGBT community are going to want to know more about that aspect of my life, but I'm not going to touch to that right now on this one. I'll just say that I dated a guy in college. I was still very much in denial about myself, and I ended up marrying that guy. Then he joined the military. He joined the Navy, you know, to take care of himself and me. You know, he put in 6 years in the Navy, and it was a huge sacrifice that he made, but it was for the best. It put him and I in very good, stable positions, which I'm super grateful for. And with him being away so much, moving around so much, it made it difficult for me to make friends as well as do anything career-wise, because we never knew when we would have to move. You know, like, we ended up, the first place we got sent to was Charleston, South Carolina, and because he went to nuke school for a bit, and, you know, and then we were only there for, I don't know, 4 months, maybe 4 months, 4 to 6, and then, you know, he wasn't able to get through the school, so they ended up transferring him to become part of the Riverine squadrons over by San Diego. So we got a 2-week notice. Hey guys, you gotta leave Charleston and be in San Diego. And so we were still very, very new to military life. So we didn't know all of the proper channels and different like benefits they have for moving that would have made our life a lot easier. So we did it the hard way because we didn't know how to do it. So we went and we looked online, found a place that we could live at, and, you know, made the move there and did it within the 2 weeks, and, you know, paid for our way there and all that stuff. And then after that, you know, we learned that, you know, the Navy does help, the military helps you pay for your moves, and you don't have to rush just to go there for the deadline. They have lodging. At these they have these really nice like hotel lodges that you can go to. So basically, the enlisted member can go, you know, if they need to be there right now, they can go stay at the lodge, and then their family then can take time to, you know, do the move. You don't have to, you know, throw it all together last minute, which is what a lot of people do because they just don't know. So yeah, so that's another part of who I am. I am a military wife. Being alone so much, I ended up getting into streaming. So that became a huge thing. I have been a video gamer pretty much my whole life. I got started when I was really, really young. My stepdad I will admit it, my stepdad was an alcoholic. He would go to the local bars all the time. And way back then, it was okay for them to bring their kids along, okay? So back then, he would go and take me with him to the bar, he would go and he'd drink and talk to his buddies or whatever, and then I would sit there and play the arcade machines that they had there. So I got introduced to games like Centipede and Dig Dug, that got me started. And then he really saw that I was really into gaming, and eventually he went and he bought it used. He got like a used NES that he got from a buddy of his, and a whole box of like video games that came with it. His buddy was like, "Yo, my kids don't play it no more or whatever," so he got it for me. And so then that was my first console. I went from not gaming to doing arcades to getting into Nintendo, playing, Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt, all kinds of stuff, Ninja Turtles, and all kinds of really cool games that they had out, back in the day, and that's what really got me started in the gaming. And then, I've been gaming ever since, and then now, because like I said earlier, that my family didn't have a lot of money for extravagant things, and we didn't, so I didn't get a console every generation like everybody else that I was friends with that was into gaming did. Like, oh yeah, we got the Super Nintendo now, or we got all this stuff, and I'm like, see, I didn't have that. I just had the regular NES for the longest time, and then later on I ended up getting a Sega Genesis that we picked up from a garage sale because my family can't afford to buy these things brand new. So I got a Sega Genesis from a yard sale, which I still have to this day, and it still works. It's amazing. It's like a 30-year-old console, and it works beautifully compared to, I'll get into it later, consoles today are not made of the same quality, in my opinion, because my 30-year-old console works better than a lot of these new ones that break down, so easily. So I had the Genesis. So I ended up skipping, some of the consoles in between there. From the Genesis, I didn't, I missed out on a lot more consoles in between there, and the next one I had was the Nintendo 64, which I bought that myself. I had saved up my money that I had from working like the summer and everything, doing construction and odd jobs around for the neighbors, mowing lawns and whatnot, babysitting and things, and I bought my very, very first console, and it was the Nintendo 64, and it was used. I bought it from my uncle, and he gave me a bunch of games with it because they decided that he didn't want it anymore. I ended up buying that from him, and I was so happy. I was like, yes, I got this. It's amazing. And I was so proud of myself because I worked so hard, and I made, enough money to get myself something that I really wanted that my family couldn't afford to get me. And it was just a great moment for me. And then all of that happy joy feelings was crushed because not even like a month or two after I bought it, Nintendo made the announcement that they were releasing these special color versions of the Nintendo 64, and my heart just sank because I'm not going to be able to afford to upgrade to one of those. And they had a bunch of colors. They had their two different color lines. They had just your base colors, and then they had the see-through clear ones, right? And they had this lime green clear one, which I still to this day think is one of the most beautiful, sexiest things I've ever seen in my life. And I wanted it so bad as a kid, and I just couldn't get it, so I was stuck with my base gray original Nintendo 64. But it was great. I loved the machine. I had a lot of fun with it, playing Perfect Dark and NFL Blitz and just having a good time. And then eventually my real father bought me a PlayStation 1 for a Christmas gift. He's only bought me two gifts in my entire life. Two gifts in my entire life when it came to Christmas. And he didn't do birthdays. He didn't do anything for my birthdays, but anyways, he's only bought me two Christmas gifts in my entire life. The first gift was a VHS copy of the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie, with Ivan Ooze and all that in there. That was the first gift he ever bought me. And then the second gift was the PlayStation 1, the small little slim white model. I ended up getting this little PS1 Slim, and that really, I got super addicted to gaming then, because I feel the PS1 generation was one of the best gaming generations ever. I played everything. I got super into racing games during that, playing Need for Speed the Driver Series, Test Drive, all kinds of things, right? NASCAR, and I just had a lot of fun with those, and it was great. And then I ended up skipping the PS2. I didn't have money for that, and the original Xbox finally came out. Didn't have money for that. Didn't have interest in that either. So I skipped those. I didn't get a GameCube or any of that stuff either. I ended up getting into college, and I ended up getting an Xbox 360 that I had bought myself. So while in college, I had the Xbox 360, and now today, I own the Xbox One, a PS4, and the Nintendo Switch. So, I mean, I'm pretty well-rounded. By no means will I say that I am hardcore just, pro Sony or hardcore just pro Xbox. I play everything. I do have preferences. I tend to play games on Xbox and PC more than any other of the platforms, but I still play the other platforms. When it comes to Sony, I just have their console for their exclusive titles, and that's it. A lot of the other games that they tend to have just don't interest me, and I don't get all the exclusives either. I'm not really big into fighting games anymore. I had a lot of fun with them when I was a kid, playing them on like the NES and like the PS1, but I've lost interest in fighters, so I don't want any of the fighters. I don't care for horror games, and I don't care for, anime, JRPG style games, which I feel JRPG and horror themed games are the big ones that Sony tends to have, and I couldn't care less about those, honestly. So I'm a gamer, I'm a streamer, I'm a Navy spouse, grew up in the country. There's a lot of different things that kind of define who I am, but it's still hard, even going over all these, kind of like a little bit of my background, it's still hard for me to wrap my head around, like, who am I? Even now, I still don't really know who I am. It's a tough question. I hope you guys enjoyed listening, me ranting for a good while here about my beginning story, I guess. I can go into more detail about certain topics from that, because I kind of brushed through some of the things down the road. But yeah, I think this is a good beginning, and I thank you guys so much for, listening this long, like this is a long time for you guys to sit here and listen to me rant about myself. So thank you guys so very, very much. Make sure you guys check out my Twitch. I'm Cool Cat Terry. I play a lot of different things on there. I do RPGs, action adventure, puzzle games, racing games. I got a pretty good variety in there. I just like to have fun and keep the hype going. Make sure you follow the podcast here, man. Like, keep that follow, whether you're listening to it here on Anchor or on Spotify or somewhere else. I appreciate you guys so much for that. Tell your friends, share it around. And yeah, thank you guys. And I will, look forward to the next addition to Just a Glimpse. I hope you guys enjoy learning more about me and what I think about and how I think about things. You guys are amazing. So until next time, you guys, keep it real.